All right, let's talk about Superman. 3 years into his journey as a superhero in a world already familiar with metahumans, Superman faces his greatest test yet, bridging his Kryptonian origins with his human upbringing. Superman! Okay, before I get into this, I want to emphasize something that might be obvious but needs to be said. Considering this is a comic book movie with a lot of rich history, everyone that loves a superhero will see what they love and pretty much compare it to previous iterations. So I'm going to try to avoid that as hard as I can. The good. James Gunn, as a storyteller, is incredible at building up and creating the rules around his world, his fiction, his characters. For instance, we understand Superman's weaknesses, we understand his strengths. He struggles and is actually aware of his limitations and doesn't do stupid shit like this. Every cast member embodies their characters. This actually might be my favorite version of Lois Lane. Rachel Brosnahan actually finds a way to not only equal the cast members around her, but actually match Superman. Mr. Terrific, Metamorpho, and Guy the Green Lantern Gardener all fit inside of Gunn's world. He writes them beautifully. I think that's one of James Gunn's biggest strengths, is that he actually finds characters that are kind of closely match his personality versus writing something outside of his box and then kind of piecemealing it together. Although I will say hawkgirl was fucking weird as I mean, I don't get it. Out of all of the side characters, Mr. Terrific was just, he was almost a side character that stole the show from the main character. And of course, we have to talk about David Corenswet as Superman. He has the looks, he has the 1950s charisma, he has the super trunks. I think if we really break it down, a lot was riding on him having to actually take up the mantle and essentially become his own version of Superman. That's another thing that I think is going to be either something that people will love or something that people will hate, is kind of the campy Saturday morning cartoon version of Superman and how it plays out versus the Superman history, the bad. I mentioned this before, but James Gunn really writes around himself. I just don't know if Superman is the character. He's great when it comes to ensemble casts, weird characters, taking things out of the abnormal and then putting them into something that can be enjoyable. But it's like taking an icon and then putting it into his world. And so now he's got to shape Superman a certain way based off of maybe iterations that he loves of the comic books. And oddly enough, within this, he kind of made Superman less of a main character and more of a contributing character within the episode, or rather within the movie. It's kind of like an episode. The action is so ugly. They essentially just copied a lot of those sequences from Guardians and then just put it into Superman. It works really well when you're first seeing it, but then for the fourth time now, it's, The flow of the movie is perfect for people with ADHD. The issue that it really had was that it didn't slow down. It didn't take its time. It was almost like it jumped from scene to scene, nonstop dialogue, nonstop movement. That's kind of the thing where you see the fighting divide between what James Gunn wants and then what is kind of traditional for the character. I want to say this, traditional with a couple quotes, and I'm frowning a lot. Its overall message is very messy. On one hand, he lives by the messaging his biological parents gave him. That turns out to be a miscommunication. That then turns into a more human message all of a sudden. On another hand, he's still trying to gain the trust of people he's probably saved 1,000,000 times over the past couple of years and yet is still questioned. What? And on the other mutated hand, it's about his responsibility to every living thing on the planet. He even saves a squirrel. That's one of those moments where I was like, why stop there? Why didn't you save the million of ants that you might have crushed with that tree? Why didn't you save the tree? And lastly, the movie assumes too much. The way the story is presented is basically Act 2 to Act 3. Act 1, that didn't happen. Okay, it almost is working against itself because it's not allowing us to appreciate kind of the beauty of the movie overall. I think the world, or maybe just the internet, wants this movie to work out so badly because they've never really been able to capture with what Richard Donner did back in the 70s. They tried to do it with Superman Returns, but it was stale. They tried to do it with Man of Steel, but that created a cult. And Henry was truthfully treated terribly throughout the iterations. And now they're here. Now we're here. The make or break point in how a universe will be shaped. Superman is campy, it never slows down, and it's uniquely James Gunn. And it's just okay. I think I liked it, but I also think I didn't like it. The more negative things that you're trying to throw out there on the movie kind of actually shows just how much you like the character or how much you are rooting for it. Because as much as you hate it, there's a version of the character that is your own version. Nobody, no filmmaker, nothing will ever satisfy that. I think at the end, you should see it. What do you think? Without comparing it to the previous movies, you know, there's just it's weird to think that there's so much riding on it, which is so painfully stressful. James, it'll be okay. That's it.